Welcome to Labour Party Conference 2007 on YouTube. My name is Mike Katz. I'm a member of the National Policy Forum and I sit on the Prosperity and Work Policy Commission, where we look at the work of the Treasury amongst other departments. And I'm here with our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Alistair Darling. Welcome, Alistair. Great speech. Do you think it went well? First big speech at the conference, always very difficult to pull off.
Yeah, it is, but I think actually because of what's been happening in the last 10 days or so, my central message is that the world is changing very quickly. We've got to change, and we've got to face up to a completely different world to the one we saw in the past. And I think people accept that. What the position we're in now is something can happen on one side of the world. It'll affect us within a few weeks. Now, people understand that, but I see that as an opportunity, not a threat, provided we make the right response.
Indeed. In fact, we've had a whole load of questions in from people on the website, and the first question is, do you think the big growth of India and China is good or bad for Britain?
I think it's good. When you think about it, these countries are developing in a way that the Labour Party's always wanted. We've always called upon as much help as possible for developing countries. India and China are doing that. Not only are they going to be producing goods which we can buy, and fruit and vegetables coming here, other goods as well, electronic goods, but these are big markets for us. A lot of our education is exported, if you like, into China. Our pharmaceuticals industry, financial services industry. There's a huge potential here, and we've shown we've got very high levels of employment. Provided you make the changes, provided you adapt to this new world, the jobs will be there. Excellent.
Well, of course, you've had a very busy week the past week or so, and I think it's unsurprising that one of the questions that's come up is about Northern Rock rather. How will you make sure that the Northern Rock situation doesn't cause more problems in the rest of the economy?
I think the key thing is that we start from a very strong economy. And that'll help see us through. We've had very strong growth. We've done better than America, Germany, France, and that will help us. We also, though, need to make sure that we try and avoid some of the problems that have been thrown up. For example, internationally, stopping this practice where people can put risky investments off balance sheets and nobody sees them, and then when things go wrong, it causes a problem. And also here at home, making sure that we provide protection for savers so they've got the confidence to put their money into banks or building societies. If something goes wrong in that unlikely event, then we can look after these people. We're not going to underwrite the bad calls or the big mistakes that directors of these companies might make, but we do think we've got an obligation to help ordinary people who save.
Do you really think that you can abolish child poverty?
I think we can, and we've shown that we can make great strides. We've taken 600,000 children out of poverty with the tax credits that Gordon introduced when he was the Chancellor. That's helping something like 10 million families. So there's a huge amount we can do to help get children out of poverty. There's also the key thing you've got to recognise is money is part of it, an important part, but also giving children a better opportunity. That's why Sure Start, for example, helping children from disadvantaged backgrounds, and crucially, something that we've held dear now for 10 years, recognising that work is the best way out of poverty. Under the Tories, you've got 3 or 4 million people out of work. We've got very, very low levels of unemployment. We're getting a lot more people into work, and families where there is work, where the parents are working, they're a lot better off. So yes, you can do it. It takes political will, though. The Tories won't do it. We believe it's important that we do.
And of course, education is a very important part of that in terms of improving social mobility and actually giving people the wherewithal to improve themselves and to make sure they can equip themselves with the skills and the education for the future. One of the things that I'd like to ask, though, is that Gordon Brown is a political point. He's seen off 6 Tory chancellors. Do you think he'll be able to give George Osborne a run for his money?
Well, just on your last point first, education is critical. If people have got education, if they've got skills, then they'll do well in their lives. That's why we want to get more people in university, for example. But as for George Osborne, you just have to look at his approach. I mean, it's incoherent, it's inconsistent. Hardly a day goes by when they don't set out a different policy that collides with the policy the day before. And you can't trust something like that. They're going to get into a position where they will create the very instability, the very huge difficulties that we had back in the 1990s when David Cameron used to be an advisor in the Treasury. So I think George Osborne's problem is he doesn't think through his policies, and that's downright dangerous for our economy.
And what about the Lib Dems? Obviously, they had some quiet coverage for their new taxation policy at their conference last week. Do you think there's any threat for that from them at all in this area?
Well, the thing about the Liberals is, very often, people don't pay very much attention to what they're saying. But again, their sums don't add up either. They said they want to cut income tax. They say they want to put it on to green taxation. When you actually confront them and say, well, which green taxes, they won't say. And, if you take their local income tax, for example, you don't have to be that well off before you'll pay more under the Liberal Democrats. Someone like a fireman or a nurse, living in a teacher, a family like that, they will pay more under the Liberal Democrats. And of course, as far as the green taxation is concerned, if their policies actually worked, the revenue would go down. So, they haven't worked it through, and, sometimes they get away with it because people say it's only the Liberals. But, the Liberals have got some pretty flaky ideas.
Very important concern for everybody watching this, and obviously it's not just going to be in the United Kingdom, but beyond, is when the government's going to fulfil its own international obligations on aid.
It's a really important obligation, and Gordon made it clear a couple of years ago when we had that huge march in Edinburgh to make poverty history that we would meet our obligations. I repeated that commitment today that we'll do it in the early part of next decade. We will be one of the few countries, unfortunately, that is going to do it, but we're absolutely committed because there's a moral obligation there.
And just to add on the back of that, how can we encourage more countries to actually fulfil the same obligations that we're meeting?
One of the things that struck me back in 2005 when we had that massive march in Edinburgh is just how much people power can make a difference. It makes a difference in shaping the politics of our country, but it also made a difference in European countries as well. But you've got to get America into this. You've got to get all the big countries into this. And I think it just shows that, if people want change, they've got to show their politicians, their leaders, they want change too. And this is a very, very important cause. Helping countries develop, helping them do for their people exactly what we would want to see in our own country. It's very important, but it does need a political commitment. When the Tories were around, we're going the wrong way. The money, the amount of money we're spending as a proportion of our wealth was actually going down. Yeah. We've put it back up, but it does need political commitment.
Alistair Darling, thank you very much.